Hey guys, Poro here with another World's Quarterfinals recap, this time for Top Esports vs G2. It's actually raining pretty hard outside at the moment, so if the recording sounds fuzzy at any point, then that's probably why. G2 are the last remaining Western team, and are the team many fans have put their hopes in for defeating the East. Meanwhile, Top Esports have had a rough go of it so far, and it seems like their international choking streak is right around the corner. Despite this though, I personally predicted Top Esports to take home the win. They beat G2 earlier in the tournament, and as much as Top Esports looked pretty bad, I haven't been impressed with G2's form either. We'll see how it goes though, as Top Esports can definitely lose to anyone right now if they get in their own heads. Game 1 was total domination from Top Esports, and the most I've seen them look like their domestic form since, well, the last time they played against G2 in the best of one phase. Top Esports had their game plan on lock for this one. Cream traded an early flash with Orianna after Kanavi passed through mid, and the Akali was able to get a free lane phase off of this. In the meantime, 369 and JackieLove were slowly getting the better of their lane counterparts, and Top Esports had full control everywhere. They would take first Drake and Grubs, and on the second Drake, 369 would absorb and engage well in the bot lane as Top Esports pulled off of the dragon to pick off Labrov and get first blood. With the bot wave now in a terrible spot, Caps got his flash burned by the Akali during his attempt to shove it out, and later stuck on a similar situation top, he was solo killed, and now it feels like the game has truly slipped away from G2. Top Esports would go for a Herald crash, and Broken Blade saw an opportunity to stun Kanavi and get the fight kicked off. Top Esports with the lead would fearlessly go in anyway, and the fight looked to be going their way as both 369 and Cream got onto the backline to kill Xinjiao and Corki. Top Esports would continue to commit though, sending 4 members onto Labrov under turret where he hit them with a quick combo, and this allowed Caps to hit a huge 4-man shockwave to get 2 kills back. G2 would turn this into a Drake, but that was the last fight they would win. Top Esports would play an absolutely beautiful Otacon situation. They set up top lane to slow push and then postured around Otacon without starting it for an extended period of time. G2 had to commit all 5 members bot side out of fear that Top Esports would start it, but they simply never did as they slowly burned resources from G2 across the map, including a turret, multiple top waves, and even mid waves too. 369 would go top to catch the top wave again, and G2 decided this was their window to get onto the Otacon themselves, but Top Esports had set up a TP ward behind the Otacon in advance, and 369 teleported back in as Top Esports completely destroyed G2 in the ensuing teamfight. The last play of the game for G2 would come topside when they thought they had a pick on 369, but he disengaged from the collapse well, and Top Esports arrived to wipe G2 once more. With nothing else for G2 to do, Top Esports would pick up the Baron buff and take full control of the map before ending the game. This was a super clean game from Top Esports from start to finish. Everyone on the team played a very good game with only slight mistakes here and there, but for the most part they were all individually winning their lanes, rotated around the map well, and team fought much better than G2. This was the look I wanted to see from Top Esports, and for Game 1 at least, it seems like they're avoiding their innate choke. Game 2 was a bit of a reversal as it was actually G2 who came out with the early lead. Labrov landed multiple huge stuns in lane, and before JackieLove could even hit level 2, he was forced to flash away. From here, Labrov and Hans zoned the Sivir off the turret for the first crash, and with Sivir still at level 1 after Mundo finished his full clear, G2 went for a 3-man dive and traded a Sivir kill for the Lucian. Hong chases way too far and dies as well, so G2 have a fantastic early game opening. At 9 minutes, G2 went for another dive. This time, it's Caps with the flank to create a 4v2 situation, and a great calling from Lucian makes the dive an absolute success as they pick up 2 more quick kills. Right after this, Hong is caught greeting for vision in enemy bot side jungle, and he is killed yet again to give G2 a 5-1 kill lead. The game should be all wrapped up, but now Top Esports find some good plays of their own. First, they sacked bot turret to make a dive mid which goes well, and this dive also means 369 has time to hit the top turret for free and get a lot of gold back. Next up, Kanavi and Cream would pair together to catch Hans and Labrov out in their red side jungle, as Cream would make a great prediction ult to catch out Lucian, and Kanavi would layer a great Kiana ult onto 2 on top of this. They pick up Herald, and now the entire early game lead G2 had is gone. G2 would then go for an invade onto Kanavi's blue buff, and for a brief instant it looked like G2 would lose the game here. Kanavi got over the wall and landed a huge 2-man ult onto Lucian and Bard, and they both almost got one-shot as Lucian had to flash away and Bard portaled out with low HP. Hong would take the portal to follow after and get killed for it though, and what could have been a nice Top Esports play turned into a slight lead for G2 once again. G2 would go for the Otacon right as it spawned, and Top Esports not in position would have no way to get in. Kanavi attempted a flash steal, but would not get it as G2 got the objective for free. In the next Drake fight, Labrov would get caught out by the Kiana ult in one shot, and Top Esports would navigate the teamfight well to end up with the objective themselves, and the game is still neck and neck. The game would truly fall apart for Top Esports at 24 minutes as they thought they had a kill onto the Mundo, and they blew everything to get it, but Mundo barely survived with his ultimate, and Kanavi and Hong died for the attempt. To make matters worse, Caps found a nice teleport bot side with Broken Blade to pick up another kill onto 369, and now G2 have a 3k gold lead once again as they stare down the Baron. Top Esports threw everything they could at the Baron fight to contest, but it was doomed before it started and G2 took full control of everything. The game ended shortly after as the base was in shambles after the Baron push, and G2 strike back in the series. While Hans and Labrov played a great early game, they were the main ones who threw it back to get Top Esports into the lead briefly, and the main players on G2 who I thought got them to the finish line were Skewmond and Caps. Mundo didn't have to do much, but he won the smites he needed to win and he never made any mistakes to give Top Esports the advantage over him. As for Caps, it felt like all of his spells were point and click in this one. Some of the teamfights were lost entirely, if not for Caps landing literally every single Q on targets who were moving around pretty fast. As for Top Esports, this was a disaster class for Jackie Love. Getting hit by multiple Bard stuns early to lose the lane hard is already bad, but on top of that, he also trolled multiple teamfights, including one where he walked up and got stunned by a straight up Bard Q while he had Spell Shield up. Definitely ugly from the Top Esports bot side in this one, and the heroics from Cream and Kanavi weren't enough to claw this one back. Heading into Game 3, I feel like I still favor Top Esports a bit. G2's inability to win this one more dominantly off of that early lead does worry me, and it feels like the members of Top Esports are pretty locked in still. Game 3 was a much more inactive game as both teams were content to completely trade sides of the map. G2's focus was on top side. They picked up Void Grubs, Rift Herald, and a kill on 369 off of a top gank, whereas on the bot side of the map, Top Esports kept on stacking Drakes. Skewmond was caught on a Gromp invade one time, but for the most part the game was dead even. The stalemate would continue for the first 20 minutes of the game, where Top Esports would make their first major strike. They had a faster setup to Otacon and shifted their control to topside very efficiently. Basically, the instant Otacon spawned, Top Esports were able to start it up with their superior vision control. I'm assuming G2 made the call to completely give it over, as they definitely knew Top Esports were on it, but Hans channeled a recall which meant any chance at fighting was gone, so it's a free Otacon for Top Esports. A couple of minutes later, Top Esports would go for the Soul Point Drake, but this would be an execution mess from G2. Caps went for a flank fully on vision and was chunked heavily before the fight even started, and then Jackie Love shifted right onto Labrov's face as Labrov panicked and threw a hook, which led to Top Esports killing him and Caps on the chase down. Broken Blade Sweeper found a nice kill on the exit as they caught Kanavi on his recall, but the game was definitely in Top Esports' favor now. One more team fight for the Ocean Soul would be all it would take. I actually like how most of the members played this one. Labrov got a high value flay and box as Broken Blade went for his flank and they instantly one-shot Cream. However, Top Esports were too far ahead at this point as Jackie Love and 369 were able to take over the back half of the fight and run G2 down. Ocean Soul was claimed, a Baron situation was won, and they take the game in under 30 minutes. Not too much to say for this one. Jackie Love played all of the fights great by being super aggressive when needed, but also safe enough that he was never under much threat. Skewmond, Caps, and Hans all made a few mistakes here and there, and that was all Top Esports needed to prove their advantage as they steamrolled the teamfights even when G2 played them alright. Momentum looks to be heavily in Top Esports' favor, and I expect them to win Game 4. Game 4 kicked off with some very aggressive gameplay from Kanavi as he was all up in Skewmond's jungle for basically 6 minutes straight. These invades would net Kanavi a kill's worth of gold from the get-go, as he was completely outpathing the Poppy. Top Esports would pull the trigger on Grubs even though G2 had setup, but Hong went too far forward and he was stunned by Caps, donating a massive cash in to the Draven. With Hans having a 1k individual gold lead, G2 pushed the pace a bit and took Drake plus 4 bot lane turret plates to extend their lead even further. Wanting to keep the momentum going, G2 set up a trap play on 369 to kill him bot side and secure that turret, but here 369 would have a monster outplay as he buffered the Nico ult with his zone ult, stunning 3 into a wall and allowing Kanavi to show up and turn the play around. Notably, Draven goes down here, which stops a lot of his potential further snowball with the passive, and Top Esports are back in a good spot. The two teams trade objectives, and Broken Blade has 2 good ultimates to get G2 2 more kills, but the game state is still pretty neutral overall. The game really takes a big step in progression at Otacon when G2 feel confident to start it up, but I'm not sure why they feel good about this as they have no control over the tri-bush and no push in bot lane, but they go for it anyway. Skewmond tries to charge up Poppy ult, but Cream silences it with his own ult, and Kanavi is able to get in for the 50-50 where he secures the objective, and after a nice little chase down sequence from 369, Top Esports are now in a commanding lead over the game. G2 do manage to catch 369 out bot side where they hand Draven another cash in, but in the moment I didn't actually feel like it would amount to much, and at this point the Draven has no real advantage against the enemy comp. G2 decide to make their stand on a mid lane contest as Labrov finds a decent Nico ult onto 2, which pairs nicely with the double Ornn knockup as Skewmond ults away 2 other targets. However, both Jackie Love and Kanavi flash out of the Ornn knockup, and with all of G2's tools gone, it's time for Top Esports to take over as they make quick work of the back half of the teamfight and secure the Baron. One more desperate teamfight on the Baron push, and G2 is out of the tournament. My main takeaway from the series is that it feels like this was a nice return to form for Top Esports. They clearly aren't out of the woods yet, as I thought Hong had a mediocre series, and that G2 were probably the weakest quarterfinalist, but it definitely helps for their momentum moving forward. Games 1 and 3 especially were very promising to me, and if they can mirror that type of form moving forward, they'll become a scary team yet again. As for G2, I think this was about the best they were going to look. It felt like everyone was playing at about the level I saw from them domestically, but it just wasn't going to be enough against the top esports that was slightly in form. Even when the bot duo from top esports weren't pulling their weight, it felt like the top side of G2 were simply outclassed today, and that was enough for top esports to have consistent advantages. Good try from G2, but this wasn't their year. I think G2 have options in the offseason. If they want to change their jungle or support, or import an ADC, they definitely could, but I could also see the angle of keeping everyone together too, since they did improve a lot in that split 3. The final quarterfinals match will be tomorrow between AL and T1, and this is the one I've been really looking forward to. Prior to the tournament, I would have said T1 all the way, but I've liked what I've seen from AL so far, and not so much for T1. In summer, AL's biggest issues were underperformances from Shanks and Kyle, and while I haven't been particularly impressed with Shanks, Kyle definitely stepped up. AL looks way closer to their Split 2 and MSI form than they do their mediocre Split 3. T1, on the other hand, definitely seems shaky. I've heard that multiple players on their team have been struggling with illnesses of some sort, and whether related or not, their form has not been clean. The series I'm paying the most attention to here is their most recent one against MKOI, where even though they closed it out in 2, I felt like T1 was making an uncharacteristically huge amount of mistakes. Everyone on T1 looks worse than their domestic form except for Faker. I'm going to predict AL 3-1 over T1. Flandre and Tarzan have looked fantastic, much better than Doran or Owner, and I don't see the bot side of T1 getting any advantage over Hope and Kyle either based on what we've seen at Worlds. The one point of pressure T1 might have is actually in the mid lane, as it feels like Faker has been ramping up pretty hard individually whereas Shanks is trending downwards. If T1 want to win, their other members will have to step up and return to their domestic form of course, but more specifically, I think it'll be based on whether Faker can outperform Shanks in every game. It's definitely possible, and T1 should look to play around that. However, I do think as the series goes later and later, AL should feel more comfortable. This team has a much larger functioning champion pool than T1 does, and we saw T1 struggle with this in LCK playoffs, whereas AL are kind of the Game 4, Game 5 team in the LPL. These two teams made it to Game 5 at MSI, and T1 actually came away with the win, but there are two asterisks on that. Firstly, I thought T1 was simply in much better form back then. Both T1 and AL were at their peaks, and T1 was definitely a better team at the time. I think if T1 do find a return to form, they'll definitely win. I'm more so banking on the idea that I don't think they will. The other asterisk is that despite AL losing that Game 5, I thought their draft was much better, and that T1 would probably lose if the two teams ran back those same comps. Another thing some people may consider that I am absolutely not considering is T1's record against the LPL and Faker's record at Worlds. T1 have never lost a best of 5 to the LPL at Worlds, and Faker has never not made it to at least semifinals. If you're a superstitious person and are up in the air about it, maybe that can be the deciding factor for you to pick T1. I think it should be AL favored enough though that I'll go with AL, but I must emphasize that if both teams play at their absolute best, I do think T1 is the superior team. That's all I have for you for this one. I recently started a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. I have 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits, including different types of behind-the-scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!